The MOS of a 09 Lima in the United States Army is an interpreter/translator. Now, this MOS does work slightly different than a lot of the MOSs, or pretty much all of the MOSs in the Army. So before we dive into the different qualifications and different things with it, let's talk about some of the job duties of this translator. The primary duties of a 09 Lima will include such things as translating from English to the target language and from the target language to English, provide interpretation support at checkpoints, media events, and much more. This is an MOS available for enlisted soldiers going active duty, National Guard, or reserves. But the qualifications to get into this MOS is not like any of the other MOSs. For starters, an individual must be proficient in one of these following languages over here that is from the Middle East. So if you need to pause the video to check out this list, please feel free to do so. As far as education requirements, it is still going to require a high school diploma or a GED equivalent. And since this MOS is primarily targeted towards individuals from the Middle East, then it is important to note that you are going to have at least a green card to be able to get into this MOS. If you already have a US citizenship, then great, but at a minimum, you are going to have that green card. Now, as far as the ASVAB requirements, this one works much differently than any other MOS in the United States Army. Typically, for other MOSs, you have a specific section of the ASVAB that they're going to look at to get a minimum score. For this MOS, they're looking at the overall score for that ASVAB, which is known as the AFQT score. For this MOS, they require an AFQT score of a 10, and if that sounds really low, that's because it is. Normally, to even qualify for the United States Army, you must at least score a 31 in the AFQT score. But for this MOS, they are a lot more lenient, and you just need to at least score a 10 as an AFQT score. Now, for individuals that do qualify to get into this MOS, they are also going to test you on your proficiency in English. Now, if you meet those requirements to be proficient enough in English, then you'll simply move on to basic training. But if not, you are going to have to attend some additional training to work on that proficiency in the English language. But if you already are proficient enough in English, or you attend that school and then become proficient enough in English to move on, then an individual goes on to basic training from there. But basic training is still the normal 10 weeks for these individuals, but from there an individual will move on to 6 weeks of AIT at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Now, their AIT is not to learn a language, as they must already be proficient in a language, but simply to work on some of the skills that they will need to be able to perform as an interpreter. Things like checkpoint operations, medical support, and several other tasks as an interpreter. Now, to get into this MOS, it does not require a security clearance, but there is at a certain level where these individuals will need to obtain a security clearance. So you will still at some point need to be able to pass that background check based on your criminal history, your finances, and all that kind of fun stuff. Now, because this MOS targets individuals that are from the Middle East and coming over into this MOS, of course, it does require at least that green card. So if those individuals are looking to make that into a US citizenship, then this does fast track them into that much faster than they would without it. Now, this MOS does have some rank benefits, as when an individual has completed the training, they will be promoted to a pay grade of E4, which is a specialist. Now, I have never worked with any 09 Limas, nor even met any 09 Limas, so I have no idea what the day-to-day work is like or anything like that. When I was deployed to Iraq, we worked with local citizens and contracted them to be interpreters for us. We had to go through this whole screening process of them to make sure they were cleared to be able to do this task, and we used local citizens from the Iraq area, and that's a lot of a similar situation as people who maybe even did stuff in Afghanistan as well. So I have never personally worked with anyone in this MOS, but if any of you viewers out there are currently in this MOS, I'd love to hear more about it. As far as jobs outside of the Army, well, obviously you could do a lot of jobs for like government agencies, maybe other businesses doing those same interpreter type of skills, but you will still qualify for like things like the GI Bill for those education benefits, and can simply just change up your career path completely if you wanted to, and use that military experience to help you with that little bit of a boost. Alright, so there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed that MOS Monday episode. If so, slap a like on it. Check out some recommended videos over here, including a playlist to previous MOS Monday episodes. Links are down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'm ThatChrisChaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya.